We are about to go live streaming.
Okay, tell me when you want me to go and do the intro, Julianne.
Okay.
And then, Jen, when I'm done, I'll just say, without further ado, Jen Grice.
Alrighty. Have at it.
All right, I'll go ahead and do the intro. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased you could all join us. I'm Sarah Carnes, the programming librarian at the Trimble County Public Library. This evening, we are thrilled to have author and divorce coach Jen Grice with us. Jen is the author of 2 books, You Can Survive Divorce and Your Restoration Journey. I'm right now reading Your Restoration Journey, and it is a lovely kind of step-by-step guide through the process. It's really easy to digest. You go day by day. It has a lot of good kind of reflection and readings. Jen's articles have appeared in Crosswalk, and I believe she has all sorts of resources on her website, including divorce and custody guides to help people going through the process. Jen also has a series of helpful vlogs up on YouTube. I would encourage you to just go check out all of the stuff she has available to help you. I've been following Jen for at least 4 years, and I would say that her writing was really one of the voices that helped me come to a place of just real fulfillment and contentment. And so I'm excited that we have her here this evening to talk to you all. I know the holidays can be tough for anyone, but those dealing with divorce and separation have some extra challenges and heartache. And Jen's going to give us some tools this evening to hopefully navigate this time and make it a time for growth and joy. So if you have any questions during the talk, you can put them in the chat box and they'll be addressed towards the end. And so now, without further ado, welcome, Jen.
Hello, thank you. Thank you to Sarah, who I've known for a while, and Trimble County Public Library for hosting this and for having me today. So today we're talking about navigating the holidays. And let's see here. I always do this where I skip all the slides. First, I want to start off by sharing a little bit of my story so you can understand where I've been, where I've come from, and where my expertise comes from. So I divorced in 2013. At the time, our kids were 10, 17, and 19. And this is a picture of me and my youngest son, TJ. If you read in my books, he's kind of been a part of this journey with me, being the youngest and still at home the whole time. And he recently joined the Marines and will be shipping out in the first of the year as a recruit and working on that. So I'm going to be embracing this next chapter of my life of empty nester. So just to tell you a little more, when I was going through my divorce, I knew God had a plan to redeem my story and my divorce. So at the time, I just started focusing on that path that God had for me instead of focusing on saving my marriage, which I had tried for many years, but just felt like this was now a new chapter. So I had to put that, including my marriage, behind me. And just wanted to let you know that I'm walking this restoration journey with you. Like Sarah said, I have a book, Your Restoration Journey, where I share the phases and the steps that I've taken on my own journey to restoration, and I'm not yet arrived. So it's not a book of, hey, I know all the steps to get there. It's a journey that we take together. So I hope you check that out. So tonight we're going to talk about navigating the holidays. And first I want to start off with sharing the difference between being alone and feeling alone, because they kind of be 2 totally different things. So divorce healing takes time, and we need to take that time to heal. There's a lot of losses and changes, and then now we're going to add the holidays to the mix. So throughout your years of healing, you'll probably pass, the holidays at least a couple times. And so it's good to have the resources that I'm going to share with you tonight to get you through this year and next year, and how many years it takes you to heal. There's no timeline for healing. So you just need to focus on your healing and not worry about any expectations that others put on you about that healing and how many years it takes. So this year, instead of, focusing on the holidays, you can take the time to focus on your healing and not the traditions or even what other people want. You get to decide how you spend these weeks between Thanksgiving and New Year's. And like I said, divorce healing is not linear. There's lots of twists and turns, steps forward and steps back. So you really have to just give yourself grace and understanding that this is a process that you're going through and that you will get there, as we'll learn about. And also keep in mind, you may not be where you want to be, but you're not where you used to be when you're traveling this healing journey. So what about when you're feeling lonely? So like I said, there's a difference between feeling lonely and being alone. Feeling lonely is connected with not feeling loved, cared about, seen, or heard. Being alone is when you are just alone. And if you feel loved and cared about, you can still feel contentment in your alone situation because you know people love and care about you, or that God loves and cares about you. And definitely take some time to focus on yourself and love yourself during this time. This helps to, combat that feeling of loneliness. And understand that loneliness cannot be filled with another person, except God or whatever higher power you believe in. And understand that God is always with you. He will never leave you, and he wants to travel this journey, the healing journey and the restoration journey with you. So you have to just give him all the things that are going on in your life, the troubles, the trials, and find him as your spiritual comforter. And what I tell my ladies that I'm coaching is I say, pitch a tent and live there during this season. Live in that healing and what you're working on, because if you don't, you try to bypass it, then you can't be free from that pain. So if you want your next chapter to be a thriving chapter rather than survival and more pain, then you need to learn to live there in the moment and get through the pain, travel through it so that you can have a better life ahead and feel less lonely. So Billy Graham said, I am never lonely when I'm reading the Bible. Nothing dissolves loneliness like a session with God's word. And that's so true. One of the things I did during my divorce was to just stick my head in the Bible and digest everything. And that's where I learned that God had a plan and a purpose. And also when I was writing my books, I dived in again and said, okay, God, what is it that you want me to share with these women that are hurting? And what is it that I need to hear from you as well? And it's very hard to feel lonely when you have God's comfort right in your face all the time. So something to work on. So we want to also cultivate gratitude for what you do have during this season. So gratitude is a conscious, positive attitude of appreciation and thankfulness. So there's power in gratitude. Being thankful eases your anxiety and depression. Depression during divorce is so normal, and anxiety, of course, for what, the unknown path that you're on. So it's best to find the things to be thankful for, analyze, and realize the things you do have during this season. This also lightens your mood and your emotional health. You can find rest and assurance, in God's word and what you have, and that kind of thing. So it also turns your focus away from the storms that you're facing. I always talk about Jesus in the boat when the disciples were just looking at the storm and saying, Jesus, Jesus. And he says, you're looking at the storm. Look at me. I'm right here. So focus on your brighter future. Focus on, whatever higher power you have in your life that brings you comfort. And that will get you through this season and this storm. And appreciate what you have. Don't long for what you don't have. Those things will come with time. And see the bigger picture rather than the tiny details that you may be struggling with. So this increases your reliance and trust in God's promises when you cultivate and use the power of gratitude to get you through. Next, what ways can we cultivate gratitude? Be thankful for being alive, for moving forward on your journey. Things will get better. I'm proof. Other women, I've walked with hundreds, thousands of women who are now thriving after divorce. They got through this season, and you'll get through it as well. Show appreciation for the people and the opportunities you have. Be thankful for your job, your home, the electricity, the heat, you know, those things that we take for granted all the time, that you have them in your life, and just, you know, appreciate what you have rather than what you don't. It helps often to keep a prayer journal and a thankfulness jar so that you can just jot them down. You know, that was one thing I did during my divorce, was to have a prayer or a journal in general, and just journal my feelings and journal my prayers and cry out to God, asking him to help me get through this season. And the thankfulness jar helps with, if you have children or other family members living with you, to just jot down on a piece of paper what you're thankful for and throw it in the jar. And then, you know, Thanksgiving or New Year's, whenever you feel like maybe that you need more thankfulness in your eyes, more gratitude, then pull them out, start reading them. One thing I tell my clients to do is to write down the gains of being divorced. So this could be hard, but this is a part of the process of saying, you know, yes, there's a lot of losses, and I can focus on those losses all day long. But what are the things I gained? Like for me, obviously this ministry, if I wouldn't have divorced, I would not be doing what I am doing today. It wouldn't have the books I have today. Yes, my marriage ended, and that's, you know, not the best thing. You don't want that to happen, but if something good can come out of something bad, this is, you know, that is something for me, and something good will come out of your divorce as well. So just, you know, write down the gains and keep from focusing on the losses. And meditate or pray, thanking God or the universe or whatever you believe for what you've been given, right? So if you meditate and pray and thank him, it's really hard to focus on the losses when you're, you know, vocalizing. Say it out loud if you need to, if it helps, so that you just put out the negative out of your mind and you can cultivate that gratitude. And then lastly, ask God to show you areas that you've been blessed, that he's blessed you, and that he continues to bless you. You know, even if it's small little things like, you know, things during the trial or whatever it is, so that you remind yourself that, hey, you know, God is with me, that he hasn't left me during this season, and that he'll always be with me as I move forward. Gratitude makes sense of our past, brings peace for today, and creates our vision for tomorrow. Melody Beatty. I thought this is so important because this is the, you know, bread and butter of gratitude. We have to make sense, and the divorce journey, making sense of our past and having peace today and creating a vision for tomorrow. So that's, I hope that we're all working on. So next, I want to talk about creating new memories after divorce. This is another good thing to be working on, whether it's the holiday season or not, that the past is gone. So now it's time to open a new chapter and create new memories, especially during the holiday season. Like I said, this is a new beginning. This is a time to recreate your life and your vision for the future. The old is gone and it's a new season. You get to write this chapter. More emotionally healthy, which is what I talk about on, you know, all my blogs and books and everything, is about being emotionally healthy. So you want it to be more emotionally healthy, more peaceful than the last. And your healing time is best spent focusing on yourself and your relationship with your creator, because that's the most important relationship that you can have. And so if you focus on that and focus on your healing, you'll build upon a foundation of emotional and spiritual health that will take you so much farther into the future. And obviously, like I said before, give yourself grace as you move through the pain onto a thriving life, because this is not an easy journey. You know, anybody who's traveled this divorce journey knows it's a difficult time. And so, you might make mistakes, you might have bad days, and that's okay. You just have to keep moving forward and allowing yourself to just get through it one day at a time. Sometimes it's 1 minute at a time. And then obviously we're talking about navigating the holidays. So the reason for the season, right? You need to find joy in the season rather than traditions or events. The holidays aren't about trees and presents and decoration and food. Yes, that's the tradition of everything, but we want to remember what the real reason of the season is. So give yourself permission to take a year off from all those things that, are extra stress in your life, or just do less than you normally would. You don't have to do all the things that you've done years and years and years. You can create new memories, or you can just take a year off if you need to. You could be grieving this year, and grief takes time and energy that you don't want to waste on putting up a tree or having the family over. And then find joy in the little things, like a quiet evening at home, a candle burning, or a favorite song. Find comfort in God's word and promises, even for divorced people. I say that on my website, that God promises restoration and peace and all the things that he promises anybody else. He promises divorced people as well. And then lastly, remember the baby who spent his first Christmas in a stable next to animals. So we can be thankful and for what we have, and we can also thank God for coming in the flesh, and he's the reason for the season. So we just have to keep remembering that. The beauty of Christmas is not in the present, but in his presence. So next I want to talk about something that really helped me during my divorce was to do good to feel good, right? So I could spend all day feeling bad about everything I was going through, but at the end of the day, when I started giving to other people, I started feeling better about myself, and it gave me a purpose. So one of the things I suggest is to reach out and connect with others. There's tons of lonely people out there ready for your friendship and companionship, or your service, whatever that may be. So you have to give freely in order to receive. And I don't mean receive and you're going to get some kind of monetary thing back. You're going to feel good about what you've done, giving to others. And that's worthwhile, right? It makes you feel like, okay, yeah, this is a hard day. Look at all I've done, and I cared for other people. And so many people out there just need our loving kindness. So when we give it, we get it back and feeling good about what we've done. A lot of people spend the holidays alone. So we have to find those people. Those are our tribe right now, is for feeling alone. Plan a holiday gathering or offer to bring something to somebody else. I don't know if I didn't put it in here. When I think it was a year or two after my divorce, my son and I had found out that there's like a homeless charity that put people up in hotels. And so one of the things we did that year, I contacted another divorced mom and I said, hey, do you want to come over on Christmas with me? And we're going to make spaghetti and garlic bread and green beans and all the fixins. And we're going to drop it off at the hotel in the lobby where all the homeless people were put up for the night. And she's like, yes, let's do it. And we did it. And we felt so good. And you know what? We got no recognition. Nobody even knew we did it. They didn't know where it came from. We just dropped it off the lobby, said, here, we brought dinner. And just knowing that we did that, and I don't say this often because it's like, I don't want any credit for it, but it was just a good year to feel good about myself, and taught my son some valuable lessons, like, oh, these people with family and kids are at a hotel on Christmas. And so it just was a good year. And even though, both me and my friend were struggling for divorces, we were able to reach out and help others, which also filled us with peace and joy that year. So the following year, funny thing is, other people started doing it. So we kind of started the trend. And so I was glad that I found, a couple years later that they were doing it more. Other people were doing it. So anyway, you can volunteer. I heard somebody say this year that they're looking for drivers to deliver meals on Christmas and Thanksgiving. So there's always some need out there There's always somebody on the street corner that needs, you know, the blessing of the generosity. You know, I always try to give out, if I have cash in my wallet, just give it to somebody on the side of the road. I don't know if they need it. I don't really care. I feel better about myself. That's what it's about, you know, and I feel like I've helped bless somebody's day. So those who plant in tears will harvest with shouts of joy. Psalm 126:5. And that's kind of what it's about. It's about, you know, yeah, this is a hard time, but in the end, you'll harvest that joy within yourself and God if you just keep planting and sowing the seeds. So last thing I want to talk about is navigating the holidays with children. And this can be a difficult time. Like I said, I shared my story about my son doing, and I, you know, making a meal and sharing that meal with others. There's been other years, the first couple years, I didn't put up a Christmas tree. And actually the Christmas tree that I had when I was married and I'm giving away, I just couldn't look at it anymore. I never was able to put it up again after my divorce. And I thought, you know, that's okay. I can give it and bless somebody else with that Christmas tree, even if it means we go without a tree, because it's not about having a Christmas tree. It's about just celebrating family and celebrating the reasons for the season. So, and it's about being intentional, right? I want to be intentional in the reasons why we're celebrating rather than, oh, look, you know, I got the Christmas tree out and all the ornaments and that's all great. So here's some practical tips for you as you navigate with children. If things are too painful, don't watch. That was big for me. And I have heard from hundreds of other women who say the same thing, that during the holiday season, they just could not get on Facebook without breaking down and crying, or get on, you know, all the other social media apps. So take a break, you know, close the account, you know, log off and come back in the new year or in February if it takes that long. It's okay. You don't have to be there if it's too painful to watch. Plan to keep busy with your children with the other parent. That's a big one I hear. A lot of women, they don't have a plan on what they're doing when the children are visiting their other, you know, parent. And so I always tell them, you have to have a plan, because otherwise you're going to spend the time crying and bothered and, all upset. So you have to make a plan and try to stick to that plan, you know, when they're gone. Obviously, practice self-care when you're alone. Treat yourself, you know. You can't always do that on the holiday, but you can go, you know, a couple of days before, a couple of days after, do something for yourself. Even reading a book or, you know, taking a bubble bath. Yeah, those are self-care things, but you also have to do things, you know, out of self-love too. Really take care of yourself during that time so that you are energized and ready when your child comes back to be everything that they want and need from you at the time. So another thing, if being alone is too hard, find a support group. Remember, we talked about finding your supportive tribe, with people that, you know, are going to walk with you through this. There's, you know, divorcecare.org, I think it is. They've got support groups. They do a holiday thing as well. So there's meetups, there's all kinds of things. On my website too, at jengrice.com/resources, I have a list of support groups as well. So find something to keep you busy, but also find a supportive group of people that you can talk through how hard this is. And another thing I tell my ladies is, do not compete with somebody by buying love. It's very easy to get caught up in the, like, oh, you know, somebody bought my child $100 worth of stuff, I need to. If you can't afford $100 worth of stuff, buy them a $20 gift. That's okay. Because you can create memories with your presence instead of your presence. So you just have to keep working on, you know, those relationships and that kind of thing. So I love this quote from Joni Erickson Tada. I think that's how you say her name. She says, sometimes God allows what he hates to accomplish what he loves. And I think the focus of divorce and divorce healing should be drawing you back to him. And Christmas is the perfect time to draw yourself back to him and the reasons why he came to this earth, and died on the cross, and all those things. It's, his love for his children, his love for downtrodden people, for divorced people. And so we really just have to remember that this is why, we may be going through this, is because God's calling us back to him. I know that's been the case for me, and I've heard from other women where it's like, we kind of gave up on God for a time, and then during our divorce, it's like, okay, I need to turn my focus back on God because he loves me, and this may be one of the purposes for my divorce, to draw me back to him. Not always, but just something to think about. So to wrap up, you will survive this holiday season and the next. You will eventually get to a place of thriving, and you'll look back on this season and see all the growth that you've had and all the things that you've done, and you will feel better about yourself and your life and the progress you made. So you just have to keep that focus on ahead, that eventually you'll get through this, and life will be, different, maybe even better after your divorce. So that's all I have for you today. Oops, wrong one. And I thank you all for coming and sharing, or coming share. I thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you. I didn't write that down.
If anybody has any questions, we can go ahead and put those in the chat real quick. I have a question for you, Jen, about would you recommend trying to start new traditions with your children during this time, or kind of doing a blend of keeping the old ones and starting new?
I think that's where it goes back to the fact that you get to decide, right? If for some people, every person's journey looks different. So for some people, that looks like, hey, this year I'm doing nothing. We're just not doing anything. And for some people, it's a mixture of past traditions and new traditions. Some people, this is the new chapter, so everything's new. You really get to decide for yourself. And may be difficult, but you have to, that's the navigating it, right? It's saying, okay, I'm not sure what we're doing this year, but we'll figure it out as we step forward each holiday that comes up. So it's really just a matter of deciding what you and your family, you can sit down with your children, if you have children, and say, okay, what is it that we want to do this year, that we need to do? And what are the things that can, fall by the wayside during this season, and that kind of thing.
I see a question in the chat box. Can you see that? Let's see. I'll go ahead and read it to you.
Yeah, I don't see anything.
Okay. Do you have any suggestions for dealing with other adult children? And what was it like with your 19-year-old when you divorced?
Yeah, so that is difficult. Yeah. A lot of women struggle with that, and men too. I just mostly coach women, so I just initially say women, but men and women struggle with that, finding that new normal, especially adult children. And when adult children have their own families to kind of visit, if they're married, they've got, that kind of thing. And I think it's just a matter of, again, you don't have to repeat the past. You have to find what works best for everybody. For some people, that means, we do it the week before, week after. I mean, we all know families and people that don't always do everything on the exact holiday. They find other ways to get together and do things, and it kind of stretches the holiday season out over a week or two rather than one day. But you have to just, talk to your children, adult children, and see what their plans is. And then, as hard as it is, and I know this is something I even struggle with, to be able to let go and let them decide what they want to do, and I have found when women are mourning and grieving, it's very hard for their children to be around them, because they want you to be healthy and happy. They see the struggle that you're going through. So it's a matter of saying, maybe this year we don't get together because mom's you have to know for yourself, like, I'm just grieving too much and I just can't make a family dinner and do anything. Or you can go out to eat, and try to conjure up some like strength during that meal to say, okay, I'm not going to talk about the divorce or any, hard feelings or anything. And I'm just going to enjoy the time with my children and then go home and cry or whatever you need to do. But it's just navigating that and figuring out what's best for everybody. And also giving grace to your children if they say, this year, I just don't want to be around you. It happens. They just say, I just rather, pretend nothing happened. And you have to remember that's their journey as well. This is their path. So we, as grieving people during and after our divorce, have our path, but our children have their path as well. We can't force them to do what we want after divorce. We have to just say, okay, this is their path, and this year they're choosing this or that, and that's okay. That's okay. I hope that's helpful.
All right, Julianne, are there any questions over on YouTube?
Nothing that I'm seeing, although it's kind of a hard topic for some people, so I don't think that questions in the chat would be
This is
popular
true
in some cases.
Yes. I do see another question in the chat. It says, how do you handle grieving around the children still living at home? That's a great question. I was going to ask that too.
That is a great question. Yes. I personally think that we need to show them that, not to hide that. I know this is kind of a controversial thing, and experts have their own opinions sometimes that you should hide it or not. My opinion is that you shouldn't hide your grieving. That doesn't mean you're always crying and there's a balance, right, between, hey, mom's having a really rough day and I really just need to be alone for 20 minutes while I cry or whatever, and then I'll come out and we'll eat dinner or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think if you're showing them grief, they're going to learn empathy and they're going to realize that life is not always easy and that we struggle as human beings. And so that's why I think it's important to, let them see that, but also have the balance to say, okay, I have to pull myself together and get through this. And then once the kids are in bed, then I can do some more hard healing and that kind of thing. So I think it's just a matter of allowing them to see some of the grief and understanding and explaining to them, like I said, on their level, that, hey, I'm going through a really rough time. You don't have to go into details. Maybe they know about the divorce, maybe they don't, but you say, I'm going through a real rough time, but I will be with you as soon as I can. And then you just do what you have to do to get through the rest of the day.
I wanted to say your suggestion for doing volunteer work, that was kind of a game changer for me. That like delivering Meals on Wheels, that it was such a blessing, because then you really see people in hardship situations. And so I call it my perspective. It gives me a better perspective every week. So
yeah,
I second that.
Be miserable. It's kind of hard to be miserable. Like, yeah, divorce feeling is miserable, but it's hard to be miserable if you're out there helping somebody and realizing, at least I have a home, or at least you have this or that. Yeah, you can definitely cultivate gratitude by just helping others.
Absolutely. Well, I don't see any more questions, so we can go ahead and wrap up. Jen, thank you so much for speaking to our group. It's been lovely, and it's so nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, same. I feel the same.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us, and we'll keep the video up on YouTube so you can rewatch it if you need, and definitely go over to Jen's website and take a look at all of her great resources. And she also does coaching if you are in need of someone to kind of walk alongside you for your journey. And so I hope everyone has a good night.